On the issue of, we have to do tastings of tea at our Kenya High Commissions as part of e-tastings. So essentially, you basically have people on the other side of the world or anywhere else, and you basically have a barista or somebody on this other side who is then able to take them through a tasting exercise, which they don't need to be there physically, and you can talk about the attributes of the tea and so on and so forth. And this is part of what they already do, but it is part of what we can further also explore. As far as the recent trip in Embu for value addition plans, I think if you share with us the details, we'll be willing to see if there could be certain sources of financing as well that we could recommend. I spoke about the Africa Trade and Investment Partnership that USAID is doing. We could see whether we could write a letter to Treasury to try and prioritize that in a supplementary and that kind of a thing. So if you just get in touch with me, I'll be very happy to sort of get further details on that. I think there was also the issue of when people travel, they should have a packet of tea and so forth. So I think this is the general question on how we maximize all available opportunities to basically build our brand abroad. So I will not go into each and every one of them, but to accept that as part of this conference, we should use all of those modalities. Professor Banda, I think he spoke about the civil servants training program. I think I've already covered that. One thing that I would add is this: the State Department of Trade, KEPROBA, and so on and so forth, we have already been doing this kind of work. I think what only happened in August last year is that we now have a fresh administration that is actually prioritizing our export development in a much more aggressive way. So we are already always engaging with the Treasury for more resources that can help us do this kind of work. I'll be able to do even much more. On carbon credits, I confess, I do know that some work is going on there, but it is not directly being handled by our department, but we know that there are private sector investors that are interested in this area, and if you get in touch with me, I could share more information in relation to this. I think the main issue there is the traceability that I think we need now to have as a resolution of this conference. The State Department Environment, MFA, and Trade can actually look into that and have it ready in another 7 days with some specific answers. Tea factories being ignored. I think we have agreed yesterday that the basic element for us to be able to get higher value is to be able to tell the story and the attributes of that specific tea level, the taste and other factors, and even the historical story about the people who live there. That's part of how you market tea as well, and any other commodity. So that one I fully agree with, and it is something which KEPROBA, for example, is able to work specifically with a tea factory to understand those factors and to have them on board. They will know, for example, what is the age of the person in the US that takes tea, whether it's a man or a woman, whether they own a home or they don't own a home, whether they take it in the evening or in the morning, or even things like when they buy tea, what else do they buy? Or if they buy tea, what did they not buy? We take our tea hot. Many Americans take their tea cold as iced tea and so on and so forth. So these are things that KEPROBA knows, and if you approach them, you'll be able to work out a very specific marketing dynamic in a very specific market and what you specifically need to do. On the issue of labeling and packaging, I fully agree with you. We need to make sure that we label and package specifically for the market that you are going into. Let me give you an example of meat, which we are currently working with the World Bank and the State Department for Livestock to improve our exports of meat to the Gulf from $47 million, and we want to try and double halal, and you need to make sure that it is halal certified. And you need to know how many grams the packet must be. In Egypt, for example, they like smaller grams. In other places, they like larger grams, and so on and so forth. So for the tea sector, this still goes into part of what you do in a market, such that once you know what the buyers want, you also have to make sure that you label and package and so on and so forth properly. I think I will leave it there. We still haven't covered everything, but I think in the interest of time,
Yeah.
really I beg that we...
Thank you. Just a bit. You can just hold a bit. We all agree that in the interest of time, we need to move this discussion, and the Ministry of Trade, led by Moses Kuria and under the directions of His Excellency, is doing a great job. So maybe just take a seat a bit. We want to listen to successful independent marketers that we have within ourselves here, and they have that touch of experience. With your permission, Your Excellency, permit me just to invite somebody called Collins, who is an independent producer, to share in just 2 minutes his experience, then we move forward. Collins, if you're in the session. Collins Chiruyat. Yeah, just in 2 minutes to share, because it's a lived experience, because he owns and then he markets himself, just to listen to him, and then we proceed. Yeah, and the challenges that could be there, and the possible way of moving it. So Collins, take the mic, Collins.
Thank you, Governor. His Excellency the Deputy President, all protocols observed. I think I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity that I've been given. I was here yesterday discussing about processing of tea. I also want to highlight the fact that in my previous life, I've run Kenya Tea Packers Limited as a CEO, and I've had quite a bit of an experience in terms of what are the challenges that actually we face as we try to export tea. One of the things that I haven't had mentioned from the discussions that we've had is what does it take to get a branded packet, whether it is a Kenyan branded packet, whether it is a national branded packet, or a packet that belongs to a private packer, to be off-taken from a supermarket. It's one thing to actually develop very good packaging. It's one thing to have quite a good quality product. It's not difficult to actually land your product in any of the European, Middle Eastern countries. We have done it in my previous engagement. And the issue actually that arises, and I think that's where we need to focus as a government, is how do we support these value addition entities to actually be able to move the product off the shelf? Brand recognition is one big factor. One of the things that we saw, particularly when we were trying to do expos to Dubai, is you find that there are brands that are already recognized there. How do you then develop a brand recognition in those markets? And that's where I think it costs quite a bit of money and the government needs to come in. Advertising in some of these countries is a very, very critical aspect. In the Arabic and Middle Eastern countries, if your product has not been seen on TV, then it's very unlikely that it will not be picked off the shelf. So I think we need to focus as a country on how do we then facilitate our packers that we're actually encouraging to be able to move that product off the shelf. Some of the contexts that we've looked at, like what happened to the Sri Lankan journey, the way they were able to develop in the early 70s was they had an export compensation. Now, the export compensation scheme would actually be able to give money to the packer so that it is going to be purely, and I agree with what the PS was saying, you can have a countries, and that is definitely something that can help, because you need to be able to land your product there, have it stored in a safe place, but it is us as a private sector who should actually facilitate the movement of the product off the warehouse. So it will be the responsibility of the private sector investors to actually do the marketing. But what I would like to urge the government is to facilitate. One is, if we had, for instance, export promotion compensation, that would then be given to a packer who has actually delivered his product to that destination market. Then he uses that money to be able to market the product. What it costs you in Kenya. What we had in one of the local TV stations, prime time before news, if you wanted to advertise your product for 30 seconds before news, it would cost you 3 million Kenya shillings for 30 days. If you wanted to do that in Dubai, it will cost you 9 million shillings. Believe me, none of our packers, even Ketepa, can afford that for a very long time. It can only be through intervention of government. When you talk about putting your product on the shelf, in Kenya, any of the supermarkets, you can actually put your product in the shelf without any expenses. In most of the foreign countries, you actually have to rent shelf space. How many of our small packers can actually afford that? We did it when I was in Ketepa. We used to pay quite a bit of money, but it gets to a point where you're of 300, 400, 500 million shillings. So investment, I think, is probably not where we should be focusing on in terms of equipment, machinery, even in terms of artwork development. Facilitate this product that has landed in that foreign market to be off-taken from the shelf. The moment that is achieved, the rest, I can guarantee you, will be straightforward. It will be much easier. But I want to support, and I've been a very good, strong advocate of warehouses in the destination markets, because if I'm a small packer and I want to export 5 tons of tea, where do I put it? And among the areas that I would actually suggest that we focus on is West Africa, DRC, Pakistan, and Dubai. Then the next thing we need to look at is how do we get the packer to move that product off the shelves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh, maybe from our maturity, let's clap for Collins. Let's have a question from maturity leader, Aaron. Somebody to give the mic to maturity. We'll just get one from Aaron. Kindly somebody with a mic to Aaron. Aaron, somebody get the mic quickly to Aaron because we are really pressed with time and this is the last day of the conference. Aaron, kindly.
Just a question in 10 seconds. Collins, I wanted to find out, are there any of your members that are doing what you're saying and what has been their experience?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, there are some of our members that are already attempting in their own small way to actually value add. I want to also confirm here that we have worked with Kepropa and we have actually developed what is a sample of the national brand, okay, not national, but a brand that can actually be used for marketing under Kureso Tea Factory, and I think the CEO Kepropa can confirm here. We've actually moved through the processes of artwork development back and forth between ourselves, Kepropa, the Tea Board, and the marketing department of Nairobi, to the point that we have actually developed a fully branded packet that is actually now in the market and is in production. We are looking at that as one way in our ambassadorial offices in foreign countries. So that is one step that we have done. We have also moved to export some of those teas to foreign countries. We've done quite a bit of exports to Saudi Arabia, and we've also done a bit of exports to Japan. But there is a limitation in terms of the fact that you get to a point where your finances are stretched beyond what is actually coming, because the offtake from the shelves is actually much, much slower. If there was that kind of facilitation, I think we would actually be able to stretch ourselves and be able to move the product progressively and grow. The reality of the matter is, if you put a product on a shelf in a supermarket in most of these countries, where you're talking about rental, shelf rental, the other aspect also that comes in is they also look at how much or how fast is your product moving. If your product is not moving, then within a certain period of time, they'll actually ask you to take back the product. And those are the kind of expenses that we need to be looking at. The Sri Lankan model, which I mentioned about, is it was actually the export compensation program that they used. I know when you talk about export compensation in this country, sometimes it creates a negative connotation, particularly when you reflect against the previous years of Golden Back. But I think it's a proved and prudent way in which you can actually support development of nascent products in foreign countries to be able to be achieved. When we exported to Nigeria one time, it was actually very difficult to convince the Nigerians that this product that you're drinking that is coming from the UK is actually from Kenya. So again, with concerted effort and financial support, I think we'll be able to break through that bridge. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Let's clap for Collins. I think he has done a very good job with his experience. Your Excellency, with your permission, I know we have working groups that...
Concerted effort and financial support, I think we'll be able to break through that.
We may not take every question because of time, but I encourage that in our working groups, we be able to discuss these issues so that we later on present them in a plenary as a way forward so that we save on time.
But let's clap for Collins. I think he has done a very good job.
Permit me to recognize the arrival and the presence of David Sichir, our CS for Energy. Some few questions were raised yesterday in regard to power with the factories and KDDA, and I know you'll have time.
With his experience, Your Excellency, with your permission, I know we have worked.
With your permission, Your Excellency, permit me to invite our CS, Florence Tamyole, to be able to... Tamyole is a name that we gave her here at home, but a real name that you know up there, Your Excellency, is Florence Bor, but here at home we call her Tamyole, which is a very good name that represents a very beautiful lady. So permit me to ask Florence to say something. Please give a mic to Florence. Yeah, Florence, just come over, CS, yeah. Can we clap for the PS kindly? He has done a good job, and tell Moses is also doing a good job with your ministry, and we are partnering strongly as county governments with your department and ministry. Thank you so much. You're welcome, CS Florence. You can take over the mic.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, participants in this conference, good morning. I'm delighted, I'm happy that this conference has been held here in Kericho, and two, that we are able to have this conference. I'm born and bred in this county, been educated from the tea money. I'm a tea farmer. I have plucked. I've taken to the factory. It has been weighed and paid. The last time we smiled when going to the bank to pick the tea bonus was 20 years ago. Since then, we don't get paid for that tea. A tea plant can be plucked for 50 years. That tells you the kind of poverty that we have in the tea regions. However much we talk about the tea, the biggest animal is the marketing of tea. Private owners of tea factories, the marketers, saw the gap and ran away with it. The small-scale farmers were left on their own. So when PS was here, and all of us, let's look for ways of how to market, how to get the best price for tea. If it is us taking tea on the tables instead of water, let it be. This is a dynamic world. We need to find new ways of marketing this tea. And KTDA have not helped. So if we have this conference, kindly, let's make a difference in the Kenyan farmers and get the best price for tea. Collins is here. I saw you work at Ketepa. You left your job at Ketepa because you saw the gap. You're doing very well as an independent producer. Kindly give us that advice, give us that help, also for the farmer, the small-scale farmer, to benefit from what you are also benefiting from. So going forward, I look forward for the resolutions that will come out of this conference so that we get the best price for the tea. Wrong tea and sell. So Your Excellency, I know we have great ideas from these people who are here, these participants that are here, and we look forward for the best price for tea. Once and for all, we sort out the mess that is in the tea industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's clap for CS, our CS Florence. Thank you so much, CS, for your comments. With your permission, Your Excellency, and having indulged you, it is your feeling that CS deficit share, and I think at this point we are all delegates. The delegates here, deficit share CS, can come and respond to the questions that were raised by the factories yesterday on matters electricity and where we can move forward. So, Karibu CS deficit share, who is now a tea delegate here. Karibu sana, CS.
Your Excellency, Deputy President, Your Excellency, I just came in this morning from Dubai. I should have been here yesterday because this is not only my great home county, because Bomet and Kericho used to be one, and I run the energy sector, and energy is a big challenge in the tea production, not just in manufacturing, but of tea, but in the cost of doing business in our country. And so we continue working to ensure that we need to bring down the cost of energy. Your Excellency, in the energy sector, or rather in the tea production, we really manage cost of production, and I'm sure our colleagues in the House will know that we do cost allocation for every kilo of tea, how much goes to labor, how much goes to electricity, how much goes to wood fuel, how much goes to insurance. So we do cost allocation, and in that cost allocation, Your Excellency and members in the industry, I think the cost today is about 60 to 70 shillings to produce 1 kilogram of made tea, CTC, which is basically the fermented. I know the cost of production in the specialty tea is much higher. So for that cost of 60 to 70 shillings to make 1 kilogram of made tea, forget about the cost of green leaf. The cost of power is between 15 to 20 shillings, which is 30%. 30% of a kilogram of tea that we send to market, 30% is the cost of energy. So we need to work to reduce the cost of energy, like I said, not just in tea, but to make our entire economy more competitive. And so we'll continue to work together to ensure that we bring this cost of down. I know this is why KTDA, in its divestiture programs, and I know that has been discussed at length, running the various units of KTDA, you have KTDA power production. And one area of concern I know is we have licenses that are not performing today. You've taken debt on farmers' equity to generate power. And I've been sitting there and just making some references. I do know that today, Imenti Tea Factory is producing power and putting to the grid. Gura Tea, KTDA Tea Factory is producing power, Your Excellency, and putting to the grid. Kigira Hydro, which is also a KTDA, is producing and putting to the grid at certain signed power purchase agreement of 6.9 for or 7.4 for Imenti, 9.8 for Gura, and 12.3 cents US for Kigira. The question that arose, Your Excellency, is why do Kenya Power buy at this cost, very low pricing, and yet when we buy from the grid, we are buying at an average of 20 cents US? It defeats the whole thing, and we need to understand the frameworks. But today, Your Excellency, under the Energy Act 2018 and the regulations that we'll be publishing soon, which will allow us to do net metering, we will be able to allow KTDA more of the energy as captive power. You use your own captive power, and what is excess, you feed to the grid, and you'll be able to take the power from the grid when you need excess power or when you need more power. And then so we'll be publishing those regulations in a short while, maybe in the next 40 days. Equally, we are publishing regulations on wheeling. Wheeling is where you can produce power in Imenti and push it to one of the factories in Kericho through the transmission network. That basically means you can produce, you can pay for transport, Ketraco, at about 1 cent US. Those regulations are coming out also in the next 45 days. So you can transport your power to market, wherever there is market, and sell it to your relationship market, which could be easily KTDA, and be able to bring down the cost of doing business in the tea industry and address the challenge that we all face. I'm a player in this sector, and 20%, 30% production cost of 1 kilogram of tea is very high. Your Excellency, all these costs accrue and they are subtracted, and by the time we are paying the farmer, we've done our arithmetic. We don't lose as producers. We basically do our arithmetic, ile kidogo inabaki tunapea farmer. How do we ensure that we have enough for the farmer? By reducing on the cost of electricity, reducing on the cost of wood fuel. I know wood fuel may have been talked about, but let me add, because I'm a tea producer, Your Excellency. To be licensed as a tea producer for 600 acres of a catchment, 600 acres of tea catchment, you need about 200 acres of, is it 1 to 30%? You need 200 acres of plantation of eucalyptus. With the degazettement of the forest, would like to find a way of really getting into the resolutions of this meeting, that when we sell government commercial forest, we don't sell to middlemen who then sell to the tea producers and as an individual. If we give some of this government tea forest, commercial tea forest, to tea factories, that will find a way, that benefit will find a way in the cost allocation to benefit the farmer. So, colleagues, let's argue our case to make sure that as we degazette some of these commercial forests which are mature and which need to be commercialized economically, we really need to seek first priority, particularly for the eucalyptus forest, and so that when we build the cost of production in firewood, which currently runs at about 8, 9, maybe 12 shillings per kilogram of made tea, we can bring it down to 5 shillings per kilogram of made tea and take the benefit down to the farmer. That will go a long way in helping us really address the challenge of making sure that more of the benefit, the cost saving, goes to the farmer. So, but let me also say as follows, that I do know that KTDA, who really a majority of members sitting in this house, have built other power generation plants. Outside here is Kipsonoi, KTDA, Setet. We have Chemosit. We do have, on the other side, Nyambunde, Nyakwana. We do have Nyamindi. And I've checked in my dispatch plan, Your Excellency, and I think it will help to have KTD appreciate that in the dispatch profile, Nyamindi and Nyambunde have been allocated a dispatch for 2023. We do know that there was a moratorium which really was seeking to bring down the cost of power. Working within that framework, we will be, when we go back to cabinet with the dispatch profiles of additional power, and hydro, Your Excellency, is a very good base load. It is good base load because when we do solar, solar only produces power about 23% of the time because we have solar for 8 hours in a day, and even in those 8 hours, like now, there is no solar because there isn't adequate solar energy. And for that 23%, unlike hydro, where if for a good season when hydrology is good, we are able to produce 24-hour energy from hydro. So we'll be expediting some of those KTDA hydros. They are not big plants, so Nyamindi and Nyambunde will be coming onto the grid 2023 as soon as we take this to cabinet for approval. And KTDA, South Mara, Meru, and Iraru will be coming to the grid in 2024. I do know from the equity placement of the farmers against the debt that you have taken to the banks, or from the banks rather, it is challenging for KTDA today under that moratorium not to be dispatching this power which has been fully generated and which you cannot sell to the grid, yet it is holding farmers' money in equity. So we'll work closely. I don't know why KTDA management have not been to my office, Your Excellency, to talk to these issues. Everybody who is generating power is in my office every day. So I want to encourage KTDA to work closely with energy. Come to my office. Let's work together and see whether we can dispatch Kipsonoche, Mosit, and the others that I've mentioned in 2023 and 2024, so that we can reduce the cost of energy in the production. As regarding payments for those who are producing, I do know there's been a challenge on payment. And part of my coming this morning from Abu Dhabi and to Dubai was to address the challenge of petroleum, which consumes, supply of petroleum into this country consumes 30% of the US dollars. And with the tightening of the monetary policy by the Fed post-COVID, where we all know that inflation rate in countries like US, Canada, and those countries where inflation rate previously stood at between 0.5% to 1%, rose to up to 9%. And in correcting those inflationary challenges, the Fed has raised the yield on the US dollar, and we do know that the dollar has been migrating to the owners and causing untold challenges in availability of the forex for our market. Petroleum alone consumes 30% of the forex, and it caused so much pressure on the shilling, and we saw a depreciation of about 3% on the shilling every month, which is really a big challenge. Of course, Your Excellency, for this tea industry, depreciation on the dollar has been something because we earn in US dollar. And so when we get our US dollar and we convert the shilling, we get so much shillings. And it is interesting that in the last 6 months, maybe even 1 year, our profits in this tea sector has been on the yield, as opposed to earning money from making tea. We've been earning money from the depreciation of the shilling. But that as it may, the challenge of payment to KTDA generation, power generation, has been more of Kenya Power not able to access the dollars. In fact, I do know that in the last 1 month, Kenya Power has been trying to access $130 million so as to pay KenGen as a generator, so as to pay KTDA as generator. But we've told them to go slow in accessing those dollars, because what happened in that accelerated procurement of dollars from the market was the depreciation of the shilling, the speculative tendencies that accrue out of that. But I want to assure KTDA generations that as soon as we are able to access the dollar, and that should be in a short while, because the interbank has been reestablished with this G2G petroleum supply, we will be able to get the dollars and be able to offset those debts for generation of power by KTDA factories. Your Excellency, we are working very closely to see why do we have to be running a dollar economy within Kenya. Kenya Power, unfortunately, collects Kenya shillings for the power that they sell as an off-taker on behalf of the generators. But we have to buy dollars and pay ourselves in Kenya on the dollar. I remember under the Africa Trade, when the president talked to Djibouti conference, asking, why do we have to trade within Africa using the US dollar? And so you bring it home. Why are we trading amongst ourselves within Kenya on US dollar? If KTDA, Your Excellency, were able to take the shilling at the prevailing exchange rate, I bet we could be able to pay KTDA tomorrow on the shilling for an exchange rate of about 138, 140. We could be able to pay KTDA immediately. We could be able to pay KenGen immediately. But unfortunately, some of the development funds, the equity and debt was taken on, denominated on the dollar. And unless that money was required for servicing the O&M requirements of the company, it becomes a challenge for them to pick the shilling, because they need the dollar to be able to service the dollar loan. So we will work together. I want to assure KTDA that we are out of the woods with this dollar challenge, partly addressed by the G2G, but more importantly, the fact that we need to talk more about how do we service our debt on our currency denomination. Having said that, Your Excellency, let me assure this great tea forum in Kericho that as one of your own in the energy sector, as a producer, we will work together to ensure that we bring down the cost of production so that everybody in the value chain, from the farmer, the producer, the brokers, and the buyers can really make their reasonable margins, and we all have a win-win situation. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much. Shall we clap for CS Davis? You will agree with me, Your Excellency, that David has given us a very precise situation that we are in, and we are completely in support of trading the Kenyan shilling, because, I mean, it doesn't make sense that we trade in dollars while in Kenya. Having said that, Your Excellency, because you were late in beginning this event, I would want to persuade Rose that if we can take one more presentation or two, then you go for tea break under your guidance, of course, because I finished my session. But I know you are intelligent enough to guide us from here, so you are welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Excellency Governor, Your Excellency, sir. Indeed, there is a presentation. The presentation by PS Trade from the State Department of Trade was a two-part. Your Excellency, sir, we did get the input from the cabinet. We are most delighted to hear from our CS Energy and Petroleum, Davis Churchill, for that input, which is a very pivotal point in production, sir. And of course, appreciate the remarks from our CS Labor, Madam Florence Bori. Sir, Your Excellency, sir, with that, I wish to invite Mr. Peter Kimanga, who will be wrapping up our conference in terms of presentations at least. He's the Director of Gold Crown Beverages. Your Excellency, sir, this is towards the question of value addition. Picture this. It has been said we have the state-of-the-art product. None of the other players in the industry even come close. But at the end of the day, we really are not getting the best from what we have as a crop. Now, therefore, there are people who are trying to do something about it. Let's hear it from Peter Kimanga on what that is. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Chief Guest, Deputy President, all protocols observed. My name's Peter Kimanga. I'm a director with Good Crown Beverages, Kenya Limited. We are best known for packing a brand called Kericho Gold. Bwana DP, I want to thank you. Because last week I saw you giving a packet of Kericho Gold to one of the visitors, showing him the best teas we have. I really want to thank you for that. I also want to thank the legislators from this region, because most of the best tea bills in Parliament have been taken by members from this region. Honorable Kones, Honorable Cheruiyot, and Sigei. But I still want it to be noted that from yesterday I kept on begging for a cup of tea, and I couldn't get. I even carry my own tea bags in case I don't get it. I asked for hot water, but it was still not available. And we are talking about declining tea demand. Thank you for the assurance that nothing will happen to us if we become brutally honest yesterday, because for packed tea. But one of my big, if you want to pack tea for export, as a packer, the first thing you have to pay is 16% VAT upfront, which you can claim upon exporting that tea. Claims of refunds of VAT have been taking years. An average container of 20 feet costs about 5 million. 16% of that is 80,000, which you have to lock for several months before it comes back. It is working capital which we have borrowed. So we cannot be able to pack for long because of this value-added tax. Paper in this country is expensive, very expensive. We are importing paper from Pakistan. We are importing paper from Sri Lanka, paying import duty of 35%, and it is still cheaper than buying it from Nairobi. So if we think of sending tea to Pakistan packed here, it is not practical because their paper is much cheaper. If we can pay 35% import duty and still be cheaper than paper in Nairobi, there's no chance we can pack it here and take it out there. In the new finance bill, there's now an excise duty of 25% above the 35% on that if you import packaging paper. So it adds up to over 70% the cost of paper alone. It is not easy to pack. I want to go to my presentation, if you can quickly go through the slides. I want to demonstrate that is the global tea production. Kenya, we produce 8%. 92% of the global tea is produced outside. Over close to 7 billion kilos, we produce about 500 million kilos. So there's a lot of tea produced outside. We only produce globally, we produce 8%. Let's go to the second slide. Those are our markets. We had it yesterday. It is very risky, it is very dangerous that 55% of our tea is going to 2 countries, which at the moment are having dollar issues, they're having political issues. And that is part of the reason why we have declining prices. It was frightening that this week in Mombasa auction, 70% of the tea which was offered was not sold. We only managed to sell 30%. That tea has gone back to the warehouses. It will be offered for the auction again. Those are destinations of Sri Lanka teas. Look at the strong markets they operate from. They have Poland, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Netherlands. These are the markets that take value-added teas. The future of Kenya's tea is value addition. We have a very good product, but we are unable to get it out because of policies. I do not understand why. We have to subject 95% tea which we can value add. hold it because of 5% that is consumed in the local market. We collect less than 4 billion as VAT in government, but that 4 billion has stifled the growth of 95%, which we can value add. Let us zero rate it. In UK, tea does not attract VAT. Tanzania, locally grown tea does not attract VAT. Here, it attracts VAT. It's only 5%. It's the farmer who grows that tea, buys the machines, but still pays the tax for buying that tea. If we zero rate it, Bwana Deputy President, we will see value addition factories sprouting. We will call, yes, the government has to raise taxes, but we can get taxes in another form. Pay as you earn from a vibrant value-added sector. We can get a lot of corporate taxes from those vibrant value sectors if we create jobs within those sectors. More importantly, it will help us expand our markets. There are markets that don't want bulk teas. The new buyers today are supermarkets. They don't want bulk teas, but we cannot access those markets. Our Kenyan tea is being packed in Egypt, is being packed in Dubai for re-export because we can't do it here. That's the local consumption, below 40 million kilos. Kenyan drinks less than 2 grams per day per person. If we drank 2 grams, we'll be about 42 million kilos. And much of this tea, a lot of it, if you go to our airports, you see a lot of people moving out with packed teas. We consume less than 30 million kilos. If you go to a country like Turkey, they consume 3.5 kilos per year. Kenyan, we consume 400 grams. That's the reason. You see what is on our table. I got 3 bottles of water, which I never asked for. But the tea I kept on begging, I never got. Up to now, I couldn't get hot water. And we are talking about value adding or sorting out the demand issues. What you make, tea is habit forming. If you teach somebody to take tea, they'll keep on asking for it. If you come to my office, and some of you have, we never give tea. We never give water. You ask for water when you are leaving. But we keep on giving you different types of tea, green, white, orthodox, until you say yes to one. But we never give water. Water is kept outside, tea is kept inside. Here is the reverse. In Kericho, I couldn't get a cup of tea. Consumer changing habits. Today we are talking of premiumization. Improve the quality of your tea. I'm happy there's a lady who talked about bonus 20 years ago. In 2009, when there was global drought, tea prices shot through the roof. And the IGG group of FAO warned producers not to react to the good prices because they were temporary, and instead focus on premiumizing their teas and expanding markets. Only India told the farmers, please don't react. We went on to overdrive. Factories sprouted up like this, which in 2014, when prices collapsed, we had the 2016 Tea Task Force report, which has still not been released. But we never reacted to that. What we are seeing now is the result of the accelerated growth of tea production against expanding markets and against improving our quality. Globally, people are improving their beverages. We have to produce good tea, otherwise there's no safety net. If you produce poor tea, there's no safety net. Branding. Branding, again, Tea Board of Kenya. I have had an opportunity to go with them outside this country. They always register 1 week before the meeting, or 2 weeks before the meeting. When we go out there, you find the big countries like Sri Lanka have the best eye-level places. We always get a space at the corner. They get permission to travel very, very late. Same as Tea Research Foundation. They are poorly funded. Sometimes we have been funding as EATTA, some of them like Dr. Kamunya, to come for our meetings. Because the farthest he can drive is Kericho to Nairobi. If we want him in Mombasa, we have to pay for him. They are poorly funded. In fact, Tea Research Foundation is like a branch within Sri Lanka Tea Research Institute. It is so small. Sometimes we have problems. We have had our samples confiscated in China because we are told, can you explain these samples? We need to go with these people when we are going out. They can explain, they can be asked scientific questions we can explain, but they are poorly funded. They need to be funded and in good time so that we can be able to go with them to answer those scientific questions. Bwana Deputy President, this is a new way of packaging. The young group want fashionable teas. Teas that we call them functional teas. Teas blended with something else. They are blended with lemon. They are blended with chamomile. They are blended with hibiscus, different varieties of teas. This is a new way of branding. But the way we are branding our products, can you go to the second slide? Our Deputy President, this is tea from the most expensive factory. With due respect to Honorable Mathenge, this is Gaduthi tea. I saw Bwana Kirundi here. That is Kiru on the right. This is how we are packaging our tea. This packet will never stand a chance in a European supermarket. Yet, it is the most expensive tea in Kenya, Gaduthi Tea Factory. That's how we are packaging. That is my brand which I'm selling in Sudan. Kericho Gold. That rating of Kericho Gold, it is done in Arabic because I want to access that market. We are selling that brand in Sudan. We have to package, we have to make brands that can compete competitively in price and paper out there. These are some of our brands. The top brand, Bwana Deputy President, we are partnering with Kenya Wildlife Trust. For every sale we make of that tea, we are donating some little money to Kenya Wildlife Trust for creating a fence where there is human-wildlife conflict. Of course, the others are different varieties. You have green tea with mint, green tea with lemon, green tea with orange. So anybody can get a packet of tea he can drink. This is a gift pack we sell in the duty-free shops, which has 8 different flavors. It's one of the hot sellers. This is also another Rankshire brand. But Deputy President, because I saw you gave out a packet of my brand, I gave you a special token for you. Ndio uendelee hivyo hivyo. So that you can be able to help us market our tea. We are very excited when we see people giving out tea because it markets our tea. When the President of the US came here, Barack Obama, I was told before he gives a speech, he must take a cup of tea. I desperately tried to get to State House to donate some tea, but I couldn't get through. Now we got the challenges. Like I said, packers have to pay VAT upfront. If you just zero-rate this tax, allow packers to buy tea from the factories. Packers cannot buy tea from the zero-rated auction. They can only buy from buyers or buy from the factories. But they must pay 16% upfront. The finance bill has said it will be zero-rated, but with permission of the Commissioner General of KRA. How many times will we be writing to KRA to get an approval and buying tea every day? And when will those approvals come back? I have 2 containers stuck in Mombasa going to Uganda. But because of Kenya Bureau of Standards, they have given me a letter, I've sent to Uganda, they have refused that letter, they have said until you get that permit. It's timely decisions, high product. Imported packaging paper is at 5% import duty, 25% excise duty, 3% IDF, 2% railway levy. Local paper manufacturers are not having some quality certificates. I'm selling to Europe. I'm packing tea for 4 supermarkets in UK, but they want a certificate called BRC. No factory in Nairobi has that BRC certificate. For that, I have to import that paper and pay 35% import duty and a punitive tax of 25% excise duty. Excise duty. Then all these other taxes. It is cheaper now to send my tea to Egypt, to have it packed there and send it across to UK, because I don't stand a chance. If the packet is packed in Kenya and packed in Egypt, the Egyptian packet is always cheaper in UK. Can you go back to the slide? Back to the slide. Inter-county taxes. I'm happy the governors are here. Please help us, because I used to see Chabo tea from Yauti zones, Kaisugu tea coming to Mombasa. Everywhere the vehicle passes, as it comes to Mombasa, it has to pay advertising tax. It has to pay advertising tax. And it is not even selling. It is just bringing it to Mombasa. So they are just transiting that county. They have to pay. If it is spotted by the council askaris, they have to pay a tax. We have now started removing the branding on the vehicles, denying our young boys jobs. They used to brand those lorries. They are now releasing them back to the original color because every county is charging a tax. Kaisugu tea will only be sold in Kaisugu. Chabo tea will only be sold in that region. Help us by removing these increasing taxes because we want to grow as packers. If I bring in my truck of Kericho gold from Mombasa, every county it goes through, we have to pay a branding fee. So we cannot grow because of these taxes. There's a book called The Secrets of Winning a War. Conquer your area first before you start going out. It is very hard to take our tea outside if we are not able to conquer this market first. Then we have a harmonized standard code, HS code. We are importing some products from Germany, like lemon granules, which we are blending with our green tea to export. If you bring that lemon granules, which we don't get in the local market, if you import the lemon granules, they are considered a finished product by KRA. They are coming for blending. To us, it's a raw material, but it's coming for blending. We have to pay 35% import duty on them. And it is coming for value addition. So those granules, whatever we import as a finished product, whether it is in bulk or not, we have to pay 35% of duty. We are asking the government, when we are bringing in bulk materials for value addition, let those be exempted from duty. Because they are coming to create jobs, they are coming for more processing. It is green tea, yes, or it can be lemon granules, yes, but it's not a finished product until we blend it with our teas to export. Let us have 2 standardization codes. If you go to other countries, you find tea in packets attracts a higher duty. Tea without packets or bulk is less duty. In Kenya, it is the same. Whether it is packed or not, it is the same. Tea from Egypt comes to Mombasa duty-free because it's a commerce country. And they are able to get paper from Dubai without duty. You can pack Kenya tea in Egypt and bring it down here, and it will be cheaper than Kenya tea packed here because they are able to get paper from Dubai. They are a big economic bloc, so they don't get duty. So it is easier to pack those products out there. Verification of compatibility. These are, like I discussed, flavors. The flavors we are importing, we are being subjected to pay taxes on them. The machinery, we talked about machinery. Okay, if you are bringing machinery for packing tea, we are paying 16% VAT on them. They are coming to create jobs. These machines are very expensive. Upwards of 50, 60 million. We have to lock 16% VAT, which you can't claim back. Machines that come to attract, to create jobs, let us exempt them from value-added tax because it makes the money more expensive. When you are taking your cargo to port, these are the taxes we pay. We're talking about few jobs in Kenya, no jobs in Kenya. We have a shortage of KRA staff, and sometimes you have more shipments coming. We are having container shutouts because we cannot ship goods in time. It's not 24-hour thing. We need to have more officers working at the port. We need to make our port 24/7 because tea is being shipped out 24/7. The Tea Act, somebody talked about EPZ. The Tea Act contradicts EPZ. The Tea Act 2020 talks about any import of anything coming to the EPZ, we have to apply for. EPZ Act, on the other, should not be regulated. EPZ, but they are stuck at the port because we can't clear them. We never got permission from T-Board. EPZ is considered an offshore company. It should not be subjected to local tariffs, but some of them are now. If we have to import some teas, different teas from places like Sri Lanka, there are some special teas we have to import to blend with ours. If we try to bring those teas, we have to seek permission from T-Board. But in the EPZ, it says there should be no restriction in importing these products. Let us harmonize these acts. It is very important because if you listen to EPZ Act and do what they say, then T-Board Act will contradict that. Thank you. Let me say, the potential for value addition is very high, but we need a conversation, number one, with the packaging manufacturers in Nairobi. There are papers we can't get. Let us be allowed to get those papers. Filter paper comes only from Philippines. We don't process filter paper here. But if you bring it, the duty is 35%. Other places it's zero rated. If you bring, okay, then there is of course the 16% VAT. And these things are coming to create jobs. If we want to value add, we need to have a discussion with the paper manufacturers to bring the cost of paper slightly lower. We also need some guidance, particularly when we are going out. Let us have the ambassadors telling us where the trade fairs are, because we want to participate. Let us, Tea Research Foundation, let us fund them, because we are having our teas destroyed when they get to China. Because when they get there, they realize there's something which was there, which was never picked up here. Let us have Tea Research Foundation properly funded. Thank you very much. I wish to present this gift at your free time, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. If you address us those problems, value addition will triple in this country. Thank you.
Your Excellency, sir, the presentation by the Director, Gold Crown Beverages, Mr. Peter Kimanga, brings us to the close of the sessions on presentations and the panels for this conference, marking the second day. Your Excellency, sir, I am certain, and a majority of people here do agree indeed, that was one way to complete our sessions on the questions we have been saying and the statements we have shared. What to do, what not to do. There, the presentation on value addition and some of the improvements that we seek. Your Excellency, sir, at this juncture, I wish to hand over this program to you as you give us direction and as we look forward to the breakout sessions. Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Once more, I wish to express my very deep appreciation of the commitment of all the delegates to this very useful conference to sort out matters in the coffee subsector. I trust in the tea. I have been on coffee and tea until I use the two words interchangeably. I trust you had a good night and you had a good reflection. Ourselves, we were here for a TV interview to try to tell the people what we had discussed yesterday. And therefore, many tea farmers are aware of the deliberations that went on here yesterday. The interviewers were asking for the interventions, and I told them to wait. Those interventions will be arrived at today. So we want to break into the small groups so that when we come back, we can now work on, we can now agree on the recommendations of this conference. And thereafter, when we get back to Nairobi, we'll get a small team to actualize them. What requires legal reforms will be done. What requires administrative action will be done, and what needs policy will take it to cabinet. I think the Minister for Energy, you are most welcome, has been very clear. And I think what he has given is one of the gains of this conference, that within 40 days there will be regulations to allow those who are generating power to use it and sell the rest. Again, that is a very good gain for this conference. And the way the CS for Energy has asked KTDA, please don't just sit and complain. Go to these government offices and push your agenda. Now, there is a saying in my community that if you find a tortoise on top of a table, it has not placed itself there. Somebody has done some work to put it on top of the table. So if you are not getting your way in the energy sector and you just sit in the factory and then you keep on complaining, things will not move. Our CSs have clear instructions to the president to open the doors to everybody. So please call on the CS for Energy and find out where is the snag. What do we need to do to unlock so that we make progress? You know, and the way the CS Florence has also said, those of you who used to be with us, the small holder growers, and you have found greener pastures elsewhere, come and give us the experience, share with us, and we are willing. So I think even the small group that we'll get will ask the independent producers to enhance our thinking. How do we do things differently? Because KTDA is operating like government. You know, in government, there's a lot of inefficiency and bureaucracy and very wasteful spending. Is what the president is trying to fight in government, but it's not easy. You know, in government, Waziri, you know, everybody just thinks about per diem. You know, we have a big fight in my office when I'm trying to change that thing. You know, when people hear that I'm going to Kericho, you find a list of 90 people to accompany me. You know, and some are just seated in the office. And these things have been happening. People are in Nairobi and they are being paid for travel. You know, and I took interest myself as deputy president to ask who am I traveling with. And therefore quite a number of people are not very happy with me. And as I said last night, some of us, we have a woman who loves us. We don't need to be loved by anybody, Lily. We just need to do, we just need to do what needs to be done so that the people of Kenya can be happy with us. If the general population can show us love, that is enough. So we have, KTDA will have to have a conversation. Because these people who have become independent producers who are working with you, and they have gone, brought down the cost of production, and they are making profit. And again, we'll have to discuss, if what the CS has said will be done, we'll have to discuss that the saving on the cost of power must go directly to the farmer. Because from what I've been told last night, anytime you make profit, you make sure you develop a new project to absorb the new profit instead of taking it to the farmer. Yeah? And commissions and all that. So what we are KTDA tutakuwa na mazungumzo. And frank discussion. It cannot be that way. It will not happen. Once we agree with CS Energy and we see what we are saving, we must agree that that benefit must go to the farmer. And you cannot use it to pay the farmer what you have been paying and you start a new project. Again, all those projects that you start now, our constitution says anything that affects the stakeholders, there must be public participation. You cannot just sit in Nairobi and start a subsidiary without talking to the farmers. You cannot just sit in Nairobi and start a new project that is costing billions without talking to the owners of that money. That is the way these things will be done. I know you'll not be very happy with us. Again, we don't need you to love us, we have somebody to love us. So, tutafanya hiyo mpaka tukubaliane, because it cannot be. It cannot be. We were looking at statistics last night. You know, people, Wakenya wamechanuka sana. On my phone, because I've never changed my phone, wamenitumia details on the travel of directors of KTDA. Somebody has traveled 36 times in 2 years out of the country. Yeah? On farmers' money. You know, on farmers' money. You know? So, Madirectors wa KTDA tutakuwa na mazungumzo, na mimi nataka tuongee vizuri na urafiki. Hatutaki tukaze, hakuna haja. We'll have to agree. We'll have to agree. We'll have to agree that we must sort out KTDA, na tutakuwa na mazungumzo tukubaliane. Arising what we have been told by farmers. Waja ile lizungumzo hapa. Ile imekuja sasa kwa simu iko maneno. Na raia ni wazuri. They were following this in live. Wanasema ile maneno yenyewe haijasemwa. Sasa maneno niyo hii. And I've done some bit of cross checking. Tutapatia watu yetu ya National Intelligence Service watuchekie kama ni fitina. Then once we establish si fitina, tutaita nyinyi tumwambie maneno ndio hii. You make a decision, tubadilishe, tutembee pamoja. None of us has any witch hunt. We don't wish anybody bad. We don't wish to have anybody in problems. What we want is we agree. We open a new chapter, tuweke mkulima mbele. If the farmer is the main person, we'll agree on what to do. Lakini mukisema ni nyinyi muko mbele, hapana. Hapo tutakuwa na matatizo. Because I can tell you, the government has decided the farmer must get money. It doesn't matter ile method tutatumia. There must be a way how this money must get to the farmer. Na mutakubali tu wale mlikuwa mnakula hapo katikati, mpunguze ile mlikuwa mnakula, mkule kidogo, and there's nothing wrong. Because that is the way it will be. Ama mkose anything. Si ndio? Yeah. Najua huyu Senator Cheriot alikuwa anasema wakati ya campaign ya kwamba lazima kila mtu akuje kwa meza ya kukula, na akikatazwa atremushe meza, kila mtu akuje chini, kila mtu akose. So we don't want to go to that route. Now as a government we have the mechanism kutoa wewe peke yako, wengine waendelee. So let us get the direction on the small groups. I don't know, Rose, you can guide us what time we reconvene. Dio hizo groups ifanye kazi, na mimi naomba tu tafadhali, the same way you have shown commitment, show equal commitment to those groups, because that is where the real thing is, the recommendations. After all this traveling from wherever you came from to stay kwa hii baridi ya Kericho, if we don't come up with the real recommendations, this conference will not have been meaningful. So let us, hata mawaziri mkae kwa hizo group where you think you can add value. Sasa watu ya Gaduthi, wana mnaniangusha na mimi ni mtu ya nyumbani. Sasa hiyo branding yenu iko chini sana. Iko chini. Yeah? My friend from Kericho Gold, you go and bring me enough tea. Every day I receive ambassadors, all kinds of people from all over the world, because there is a function the president gave me to coordinate partners, the donors. I'm the one who coordinates them. They come to me where they have issues. So I have ambassadors every day. I have investors every day. So wewe uniletee nikumarketie, tutakubaliana commission ile utanipatia. Hakuna shida, I'll market for you, kwa sababu mimi pia ni mfanyabiashara. Na hiyo I'll earn something honestly. So wewe kuja tukae, uniletee majani ya kutosha, uweke hapo. Sasa kazi yangu ni kupeana. Hata hiyo unasema hujaona rais, panga hiyo majani nitakupeleka, upatie hiyo majani na yeye akuwa akipeana. Anybody who brands well will market for you, provided it is Kenyan. Lakini hiyo ya Gaduthi, hiyo, that one we cannot. Hiyo hata kama nyinyi watu ya nyumbani, sasa mutatuweka chini. So I think we have had a good conference. Rose, can you come and guide us on exactly what you want us to do?
Thank you, Your Excellency. Perhaps as you have guided Mr. Peter Kemanga, and since he had the gift in hand now with Mr. Mwiti, if you could just come close and hand it over to you, Your Excellency, please. Karibu, Mr. Kemanga.
Na niambiwa pia watu ya Kericho ulipe kitu kwa kutumia jina yao. Hiyo ndio ujumbe nimepata.
There we have, of course, you see, he has actualized what he's talking about. Look at the branding. the packaging and everything. There we have it. I hope Gadudi factory is following closely. Look at the packaging as well. Those are specialty teas. You can see how nicely they are packaged. Premium presentation and premium production. Thank you, Your Excellency, sir. Thank you, sir. May we all be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we now seek direction for the groups that have been highlighted so far. We will also be having support teams in our specific groups. I request the protocol team to come to the podium so that we're able to see who is going to be assisting us on our groups, kindly. And even as they're making their way here, we have misplaced items. One is by a delegate, Brian Ngwiri. Kindly collect your card. And we also have Duncan Yegon, who has misplaced his identification card ID. Your Excellency, sir, I wish also to recognize the presence of Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei. Karibu Mheshimiwa, thank you for your presence, sir. Here is the protocol team. The reason they are at our stage or on our stage is so that we identify the people who will be guiding us. Our first group is the production level. This is thematic area 1. We will be meeting behind the tent. Remember, we said for the rest of the delegation, we're going to pick the areas that are of interest to us. So production, right behind the tent, is where we're going to be meeting. The protocol officers are Mr. Wilfred Katana and Ms. Jacqueline Zhao. They will be assisting us. We'll also have the secretary to help us with the printing. Next, we have the processing level. This is going to be held right inside here in the hall on the right side. We're going to have Mr. Geoffrey Kamau and Ms.